On today's episode of Defying the Odds, I shall be talking about how to function as a woman in a male-dominated environment. Hello and welcome to another episode of Defying the Odds with me, Annabelle Kemi. And today, as I earlier said, I will be considering something I think we do not talk about enough. We do not address it enough in this part of the world. I think we've come to terms with being taken for granted as women in male-dominated environments, and we just sit back and let things slide. We more or less become very shy, timid, and we do not put in our bests in whatever we find ourselves doing, simply because we have a bunch of men looking down on us, talking down on us, and deciding where we should function and how we should function. It's almost like we're used to it and we accept it as the norm. We say it's normal, that's the way men are. Men are bullies, and there is it doesn't bother us, so to say. But truth is, I'm not saying it happens everywhere, but it happens a lot of times. If we really want to be telling ourselves the truth, a lot of us women discover that we do not function to the best of our abilities simply because of the place we find ourselves. Most times in the office environment, you find that people just assume that as a woman, you cannot handle some tasks. And then we too, even when we know that we can handle these tasks well, we just accept the decisions they make for us because we do not want to be seen as a stubborn woman, or we do not want to be seen as aggressive, which for me I find very laughable and quite despicable, to say the truth, because at the end of the day you discover you're just working, you're not fulfilled, and you're not putting in your best. Though some of us women have become so accustomed to that we just glide through. We go to work, we read books, magazines. If we are given one task to do, we do it. If not, we say whatever, and we move on, and we allow other people carry out the seemingly challenging or difficult tasks. And most times these tasks have to do with mental issues, things that we need to apply our intelligence or our knowledge to. And it irks me when I see that we are quick to take the back seat when things like this come up. It's almost like because you're a woman, your intelligence cannot compare to that of men. Do you know that even as little girls, I find it appalling when I hear people say to young boys that how can you be allowing a girl come first in a class where you are? I'm like, okay, does it mean that as a girl she's not supposed to come first, or she does not have what it takes to do better than the boy in a class? Is that what it means? Is that the message you're passing to young girls? And sadly, we grow up feeling this way. We find ourselves in the midst of men, and somehow we just take the back seat. It's almost like it's automatic. If they don't ask me to do it, I won't do it. Since they think I can't do it, it's fine. And some of us even enjoy it. We become mentally lazy, we become physically lazy. And I think it's high time we started speaking more about this. We need to start putting this out there so that more women can be awakened to the fact that you actually can do much more than you're doing. You actually can do way better than you think you are capable of doing. But that is what I think. That is what I believe. And I think the more we begin to see these things and talk about these things for what they really are, the better for us all. And most organizations would even do better if they allow women to be able to be their best selves, or to be able to function to the best of their ability. So these are the 3 ways I believe you could become a high functioning woman in a male dominated environment. I christened them the 3 S's. And the first one is show up. Basically, just show up. The second S is speak up. And the third S is stay up. So I'm going to be breaking this down as easily and as quickly as possible so you could apply it to yourself. Now, I'm talking about showing up. What do I mean by showing up? Basically, what I'm saying is, do not shy away from responsibilities. When you see that some tasks are seemingly mentally challenging or even physically challenging, do not be quick to say, I'm a woman, let me allow the men do it. Let me take a back seat on this one. A lot of us, I discover, even offer to take a back seat when it comes to handling mentally challenging tasks, especially in learning environments. A lot of girls are quick to just take the back seat and allow the men do all the mental work, and you're just gliding and hiding like a submarine with the group, and nobody's noticing you. You're barely there. But when they need food, when they need drinks, they now remember, madam, please get us some food, because that's all you're good for anyway. And some of us actually offer to do these things. I think we should stop doing this. Do not be afraid to be labeled too pushy. Like we say in this part of the world, we say, she too they show herself. Nigerians will understand me, as in she likes to show off. When you show up to take up tasks like this, you say, she has come. Every other girl is keeping quiet. Every other woman is not showing up. She's the only one showing up. Do not be afraid to be labeled too pushy or too showy. It's fine, because it will happen anyway. When you get used to it, you just dust it off your shoulder and you move on. You shouldn't allow that stop you from showing up for challenging tasks. And the next point is to speak up. It is not enough to just show up. You could show up, fold your arms, and not talk. Sometimes we are afraid to make our own points of view or opinions known when we are in the midst of men and they are all coming up with solutions to tasks, or they are coming up with their own opinions as to how to go about something. We tend to keep quiet. I've observed that a lot. Well, I don't. And I have my mom to thank for that, because she was quite outspoken. And I'm glad I took that part of her. I inherited that part of her. And I love it, because it makes no sense to be in a group of people where you're supposed to be coming up with solutions to a challenging task, and you're just folding your arms, even though you know that you have something to say, and you believe that whatever opinion or whatever kind of contribution you have could move the task forward to a large extent. We tend to just keep quiet so they will not label us too outspoken. I remember somebody saying I was overconfident, and he was supposed to be my lecturer. And he tagged me overconfident because I was never afraid to say how I felt about something. And a lot of times I was right. And I don't know why he felt it was not nice for a woman to be outspoken, because he made it clear to me that as a woman, I should learn to not say everything the way I see it. And I'm like, okay, why does my gender have to determine the way I make my opinions known? I find that really funny, because I see a lot of men, even in that class I found myself at the time, I saw a lot of my male colleagues speak up. Sometimes they practically bully every other person to keep quiet, and they just say whatever they feel like saying. And people more or less cheer them on, and everybody laughs and like, this guy is a strong man, he's not afraid to speak his truth, he's not afraid to say his mind. But when I, as a woman, decides to speak up, I am labeled overconfident or sometimes aggressive. Isn't that rather funny? Why the double standards though? So, not to veer off the point, I do not think you should allow that kind of like make you reserve your opinions. I believe you have a right to speak your truth. You have a right to air your opinions if you feel like airing them. That does not make you less of a woman, and that does not make you overconfident, like they say. You should learn to not just show up, but show up and speak up. Contribute something, bring something to the table. We always say, we are not being invited to the table. And then I hear some men say, what is she bringing to the table, particularly when it has to do with relationships? Okay, here I am, bringing something to the table, and you're stopping me from contributing my quota. Don't let anybody make you shy away from contributing your quota. Don't let anybody make you timid. Show up and speak up. And lastly, after showing up and speaking up, stay up. Most of us do it once, and when we feel threatened or when we feel like there's so much buzz around the fact that we are making ourselves available or we are being too out there, we then go back to our shells. No. Stay up. Stay there and see to it that you start strong and you finish strong. Don't let anybody coer you to keeping quiet. Don't let anybody make you feel so bad that you now fold your arms and decide not to contribute. I've been guilty of that. I remember at the time I was on a training of some sort, and I was the only female in my class. And I discovered that when it came to tasks that had to do with strategy, analysis, they just automatically believed, well, it was a new class, so most of them didn't know me or my abilities, but they just automatically believed that I could not contribute to it. So they would give me tasks like, okay, and you decorate the place, or you kind of put ribbons on the board, that's your job, or you type and stuff. And I'm like, okay, initially I kept quiet because I didn't want to seem like I was being too pushy, you know that thing. But after a while, I started showing up, speaking up, and when I now started feeling like they were feeling threatened by me, at a point, I went back to my shell. And it was eating me up because I saw them messing things up, but I refused to contribute because I didn't want to be labeled aggressive. I had already been labeled too aggressive, basically. So I did not want that to continue. So I kind of kept quiet and went back to my shell. And I watched things degenerate. And we kept failing on tasks. But I had to talk myself out of that mood. As a matter of fact, there were times I would just leave the class and let them do their thing out of anger. And I'm like, since you think I'm not good enough, it's fine. And I'll let it be. And they would all fail. I had to talk myself out of that, and I told myself, no, if I do not do this, it's not going to augur well, not just for the whole class, but even for me as a person. And I will never forgive myself. So I went back and I started speaking up, staying up, remaining consistent, and not allowing anybody make me go back to that back seat where I had been shoved to at a point in time. And when it came to analysis, my analysis seemed to do way better or sounded way better than that of my male counterparts. And gradually, people began to take me seriously. People began to listen when I spoke. And the whole idea of she's too aggressive, she's too showy, she likes to show herself, she likes to be or she's rather too confident for a woman. I remember one of my classmates even telling me, hey, you don't want to be tagged as not being womanly enough. And I'm like, what does it mean to be womanly enough? Since you as a man seems to know how a woman should actually act and be. Humor me. And he was like, no, women are not supposed to talk too much. And I'm like, in an academic environment, don't give me that. And somehow I was able to stand my ground, and it paid off, not just for me, but for every other person around me. And gradually I was taken seriously. And so I think that it is important as women, when you find yourself in male-dominated environments, not to just keep quiet and chill and want to act womanly. It adds nothing to you. It rather reduces you, and it actually contributes negatively to the perception of those men you're working with towards other women, because they will meet other women and then just assume that women are meant to be seen and not heard. Not in this age and time. So I enjoin you, ladies, begin to show up, to speak up, and to stay up. As I come to the end of today's podcast, I need to say this though. When you begin to show up, to speak up, and to stay up, there's tendency for them to kind of shove all the work on you just to wear you out. Do not, and I repeat, do not take up more than you can handle, lest you become everybody's maid. Because most times it happens like that. I experienced it, and I don't think you function well like that, because when the pressure becomes too much on you, you also crumble. And they say, you see, I thought she said she was as good as we are. Look at her now. She can't even do all that she said she could do. Don't allow anybody force you to take up much more than you can. However, do not allow yourself to be limited. Strike a balance. I know it's difficult to do, because most times we want to prove ourselves, and it's almost like we have a responsibility to show that we can do it. And I get it, but do not take up more tasks than required, lest you become everybody's maid. Do not do that. Handle what you are able to handle, and what you're able to handle it well. Don't do everybody's job simply because you want to prove yourself. Strike a balance. And on that note, guys, thank you very much for hanging out with me today on another journey into womanhood. Remember, this show is committed to changing the world one woman at a time. So go out there and be a good woman. Change the world. Make it what we want it to be, a better place. And please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and also my podcasts, which is available on Anchor, on WordPress, and several other apps. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Thank you very much in anticipation. Follow me, like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much. And let's do this again next week, okay? Ciao.